right, welcome here to the history of time. So before we get into the history of humans, we should see I like to zoom out and kind of look and just kind of see where we exist in this sort of continuum of what, I guess, from the empirical, scientific perspective of where humans and the earth and I guess the existence has come from. And again, it's all dated back. If we broke down what we know about history or time back into a year, which technically now is about 13.7 billion years, I think they've estimated. And again, where they get this is sort of the using what they know of math and physics and chemistry and putting those together. It's coming from it from a lot of different sort of scientific perspectives to what they assume is coming to this Big Bang, this singularity, again, where this Big Bang originated, what sparked it, was still being understood and then mapped out. But recordings give about 13.7 billion years, and then nothing happens in the Milky Way, which is the galaxy we exist in, which there's millions of other galaxies around, is there, and then dust and particles come, and then the sun, life single-celled, then evolved to multiple cells, then they kind of rolled around all the way till December. So it's really not to the last month of time as it exists, as we know it exists, to where life on Earth starts to emerge, and then you have early plants, four-limbed animals, and then the dinosaurs, all the way to December 24th, birds, mammals, and then the dinosaurs on the 29th are wiped out. But this doesn't end life on Earth. It just opens the door for new phases of life to emerge and prosper. And that's what mammals did. And then the mammals to apes, and then Homo erectus, all the way up until some of the things here. And then, and then humans. So we're like sort of the last minute of the last time of life. But I mean, I like this because it zooms out, kind of puts into perspective just how unique humanity is. Or at least as we know, there very well could be plenty of other life forms around that we may or may not encounter. But time is part of the story of human history. But where did humans come from, which we'll talk about a little more depth later. But again, this is a scientific explanation using empirical evidence of different measurements and from different fields of science. And what's nice about science is it comes up with theories and hypotheses. So hypothesize, like, maybe this is why this happens. You test that. If it proves true and nothing, and then it becomes a theory. But this is the nice thing about science, is theories are always being tested to come up with new ways. I mean, our understanding of the human time and history through science has changed multiple times. It'll probably change again or become more refined, right? This Big Bang, the stars to elements, life began, seems to be what it looks like now. Though again, if new evidence comes up, this could change as well. If you want to know more about it, it's Bill Bryson. It's a nice sort of easy book too that lays this all out in a very humorous way. So if you want to know more about science and where the fields of science come up and how they have arrived at these ideas, Bill Bryson's one to go. And again, but what I like about this, reason I talk about time and start here, is that humans, since the beginning of humanity, have been asking these questions. Where have we come from? How did we get here? Right? And some of these we're more familiar with, religious, supernatural explanations. And again, we could step out, maybe tomorrow aliens will come down and say, hey, surprise, this has all been a grand experiment. We actually, created you in a lab, and we've allowed you to run around for a while. Great, then that'll blow these all up. But, but until that point, right, humans have come up with where we came from. And in one we're more sort of maybe familiar with, Judaism, Abrahamic explanations of time, Abrahamic religions, which we'll all talk about in the course of the semester, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, right, that God made the world. Right, Garden of Eden took place in the book of Genesis in 7 days. Again, those days, maybe they're not like 24-hour days. Maybe they're more godly days, which take a little bit longer. That everything was created by this one singular thing, this God thing. And again, one thing about Abrahamic time is it's sort of a linear time. There was a creation, where in the middle of it there will be an end. If you read the Bible, are familiar with it, there's an apocalypse where this all will end, right? So everything was created and everything will end, right? But that's not how everyone looks at it. There's also in the Hindu perspective, things are cyclical. right? That there's these yugas. We're now in the last yuga, the Kali Yuga. Satya, Tetra, Dvarpa, Kali. The Kali will end, and when the Kali ends, the new one will come about, and different yugas will form over time, and they've all been mapped out. But this is kind of more cyclical time, right? It's not a beginning and end; it's just a renewal, right? These four yugas. There's also the idea that the world exists on this turtle, the back of the turtle. You'll see that a lot in Hinduism, this turtle, and then everything's built up on that. So religiously, that again, this sort of cycle that everything is out of this thing called Brahman. These little dots here are actual these Atman. That's everything. All creation is that, and it'll go back to Brahman again. So a little more cyclical, a little different. Where did other societies, Japan, these Kami, Izanagi, and Izanami, pulled up Japan out of the ocean, and then from all, we'll get into this when we get into Shintoism a little bit more. All of creation, other kamis and other humans, and life and death come out of these two original creatures. Kamis. We'll talk about this as well when we get to Americas, but the Mayans have their own creation myth that everything was made by the plumed serpent and heart of sky gods that made the world. They fashioned humans out of various things. Ultimately, corn and clay became what made humans. We'll talk about this again a little bit later. That made humanity together. Here's sort of a creation depiction of the creation of life and time and all of that. And then maybe some people, again, maybe more familiar with in the context of Hawaii, the Kumulipo, talks about sort of this transition from light, darkness po to light ao, the transition there, which sparks creation from the coral polyp up into plants and animals and humans. There, so the Kumulipo is a text, an oral text that talks about oral tradition that talks about concepts of time and humanity. And then Maui, this Maui story, he also pulls up islands with his fish hook, the Manai Kalani. And then, he's also tamed the sun from Haleakala. He lassoed it to create the days. He's associated with the discovery of fire. But again, Maui is all over Polynesia. And some societies have different stories of Maui, stories of creation. Aotearoa, Maui gets the fingernails of Ika, whereas in Hilo, the alae bird is the sort of red feathers of the bird is where Maui gets the fire from. So all societies have. What makes humans humans is we've been thinking about this for a long time. The next part of this lecture we'll talk about where humans came from. Now that we understand time and how humans have conceived it, and actually in 151, one thing I like about this is we'll talk about. We'll talk about these traditions and creation myths. It's one of my favorite parts of human history is how we've understood this and come up with stories of the world around us.